What's poppin', y'all, everybody? It's your man, Cloudboy Bales. Welcome to another episode of Wisco Sports Weekly. Obviously, today's analysis, is on the game that happened, today. I was busy, today, as you can see why the video is not coming out until today, but yesterday's game was obviously not one I'd like to speak highly on. Even though I feel like we did the best job that we could possibly do, I just feel like it was still an unfortunate game that really could have been won. The final score was 31-29. Pretty much we were down 28-0. Pretty much that was exactly how the half probably was going to end if they didn't muff the punt and then we scored a touchdown right before the end of the half and got lucky. But this was a game, everything just wasn't going right. And I want to sit there and say, I'll say the reason why we lost this game was based on Love is ready. We're going to come into this thing. We saw how good we were doing against the Colts and the Titans. We saw how good we can dominate. And we're going to come into this game and look phenomenal. And I guess that just was a flat out lie. But the thing is, this Minnesota Vikings team I thought was going to be not as good as people thought. You know, Sam Darnold's your quarterback. I thought their defense was not going to be that good. But I completely forgot their defensive coordinator's Brian Flores. And somehow Sam Darnold leads the NFL in touchdowns. That is just weird. And this Minnesota Vikings team is undefeated. I would have never thought this ever. Now, in my predictions video, I did say the Vikings were going to win this game. I thought this was going to be the Aaron Jones revenge game. This wasn't by far an outstanding performance. He did the job, but the reason why Minnesota won today was because of Sam Darnold. And that was obviously, that is definitely, he came through. 20-28, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did get an interception, and that was also thrown to Xavier McKinney. Looking back at it, yes, that should have never been an interception, but that is something that has never happened in Packers history. I guess that is a plus. Xavier McKinney, 4 games in a row with an interception. That has never happened by any other Packer. And it did get a fumble that was crucial, and I'll get to that later. But and 7 carries for 15 yards. I guess a couple of them were kneel downs, but not much from everybody else. Justin Jefferson, 6 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. Everyone was excited to see him and Jair Alexander go head to head, but unfortunately, Jair suffered a groin injury and he unfortunately did not play this week, as well as Carrington Valentine. So we were short pretty much corners. So that was one thing that was pretty unfortunate. Aaron Jones had 22 carries for 93 yards, 4 catches for 46 yards. And that's that. Jordan Addison with 3 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown, as well as a carry for 7 yards and a touchdown. And then Jalen Naylor had a catch for 31. Johnny Mutt had 2 for 15. Josh Oliver 2 for 10 and the other touchdown. Not much from everybody else. And of course, he did fumble one. So we were able to turn the ball over from Sam Darnold, who does commit a lot of turnovers. And obviously, the big punt return fumble was our only other turnover other than the interception. It was not much to really think about. But the reason why we also lost was because Jordan Love was no good either. I mean, he looked a little rusty. Now, the first half just wasn't that good. Second half, he looked a lot better. How about this? Jordan Love, 32 of 54, 389 yards. That is his career high in passing yards, by the way. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He was only sacked 1 time. I guess that's helpful. He only had a carry for 6 yards. Not much, but he was doing everything he possibly could. I give him credit. Also, Josh Jacobs wasn't pretty much helpful on the ground, but what can you expect when you were trailing by that much? 9 carries for 51 yards and 4 catches for 27. Manny Wilson had 8 carries for 27. And that was not much. Jaden Reed led the way. 7 catches, 139 yards, and a touchdown. It's pretty obvious at this point, Jaden Reed is wide receiver 1. I think it's pretty clear. We have figured out he's wide receiver 1. And also a carry for 2. Dontavian Wicks, despite 5 catches for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns, he could not get a catch or be on page with Jordan Love today. And that was also one of the reasons why there was an interception. First one was, I was a good throw, but I guess for some reason, somehow, the linebacker, literally perfectly knew where the ball was going and like somehow came out of nowhere and snuck it out and injured Christian Watson. And that was unfortunate. Christian Watson suffered an injury. It appeared to be gruesome, but then it turned out it was just a high ankle sprain. So my guess is he'll only be out a couple weeks. It won't be too major. But we got Reed, Ricks, and Dobbs, so I'm not worried. But yeah, we need Wicks to definitely step up. I'm not saying, yes, he scored 2 touchdowns, but man, the amount of drops. And then Dobbs also had this was a tip ball by Dobbs led to another interception, and then another one where Wicks just completely wasn't on page with Love. Wicks stopped running and got picked off again. He needs to definitely step up and have a better game. Tucker Kraft had 6 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. Unfortunately, he also had a fumble that was hugely crucial to the Packers, obviously. And if he held on to the ball, I think we could have went down there and scored something. We wouldn't have to go for an onside kick, obviously that relied on an onside kick to basically get the ball back so we could have a chance to get a game-winning field goal. Romeo Dobbs, 4 catches for 49. Bo Melton, a catch for 28. Musgrave, 3 for 13. Heath, 2 for 12. Not much from everybody else. But you know what? They did the best they could. I'm not too angry on the defensive side, obviously. As I said, Xavier McKinney got an interception. On the Minnesota defense, Blake Cashman led the way with 11 tackles. The sack was made by Pat Jones. The interceptions were made by Shaquille Griffin, Camus Griggle-Hill, and Byron Murphy, who was also, I believe, responsible for the fumble as well. Green Bay, Quay Walker led the way with 8 tackles. Eric Stokes had 7. Quay Walker also had a sack, and Keyshawn Nixon obviously had that big sack that was almost the turning point where we sacked him and got in within 1 score of the game. Of course, the Vikings went back down, scored a field goal, made it a 9-point game, and then that's when Love threw another interception. We were able to get them 3 and out, then Kraft humbled, another 3 and out, and then, it was unfortunate, and then they went right down, pretty much tried to ice the game. They didn't get it, so we went down, scored, but it was close. The Vikings almost choked it, but it was like, what? They weren't really going to choke it, But, not much that there. But, you know what? Love looked a little rusty. So I'm going to give him the benefit that the fact that he was able to do as much as he could in the circumstances that he had, I give him credit. We could have just been blown out. We could have just said, okay, Love's clearly not ready. Put in Malik Willis. Let's just focus to next week. But the Packers stayed with it, fought back to the very end. Unfortunately, it was cut short, but I give them credit. And I'm not too worried at all. Unfortunately, one of the things that really was a big issue was the kicking game. Braden Narveson missed 2 field goals, 1 from 30 yards. I do not want to sit there and say this already, but Narveson is not the guy. You can't already miss that many field goals at the beginning of the season. It's unacceptable. It's wrong. And this is what this is the opportunity we gave you. Carlson, had a good strong start, but then he really got bad, and then it was like clearly no one wanted him. Pretty much Narveson, at least the difference is Narveson owned up to his mistakes, and I give credit for him to doing that. And yes, you know what? This is the beginning of the season. He could definitely turn it around. This wasn't a good game by him. But literally, he's already pretty much at the point where it's like one more missed kick and it's like I give up on him already. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yeah, that's how it is. You can't be missing that many kicks. You can't be missing that many kicks already in the season. It's just unacceptable. But you know what? At this point, nobody thought Jordan Love would be back, and he came back, played his heart out. The game, the defense may have been bad in the start, but they adjusted to the second half, played way better, only gave up 3 points. But you know what? Jordan, the kicks didn't help, but Jordan Love's and all the other turnovers we had in the second half didn't help either. This is a game that we actually had chances to win, and I think in the future, if we play this team again, I think we know how to beat them. We know how Minnesota is. This team always starts out strong when they have a good year, and then in the end, they look bad and they choke. Last year, this was the same exact thing. They looked strong in the start. We lost to them at home, and then beat them in the road again. It's the same thing that happens every year when we face Minnesota. The first matchup always goes bad. The second matchup always goes good. I have no idea why that's the case, but that's the case. So I am not worried. I figured we probably would lose this game due to this, as I called it, being the Aaron Jones revenge game. More like it was more like Sam Darnold really pretty much just, he played his best. I mean, I give him credit. He's really turned out to really fit in well with Minnesota's offense. I'm not too mad because, I guess if Minnesota beat the Texans and the 49ers in the previous weeks, I guess we did lose to a team that I can consider to be good. So, that is unfortunate. In the contrary, the Green Bay Packers dropped to 2-2. The Minnesota Vikings dropped to 4-0. Detroit Lions still have to play tomorrow against the Seattle Seahawks, aka a team that Seattle always seems to beat, so hopefully Seattle continues that. The Bears also beat the Rams today, who is our opponent next week. The Bears dropped to 2-2. It goes to 2-2, and it's going to be a tight race. Next week, our opponent is the Rams. Originally, I had this game as a loss, but things are changing because the Rams seemingly do not look as good without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And without their two receivers, I feel like it might be a better game. And this is a game that the Packers can go into and say, you know what, we knew our mistakes from last week. We're going to move on, and we could get a W. So I'm not mad about this loss, but there's a lot I think that still needs to be worked on. And I think this is a loss and a current learning moment that we could look at and move on from, because you're not going to win every single game. So, like what you see, comment below, subscribe with your thoughts, and as always, we will see you next time. Go Pack Go.